Guys, thank you. Apologize. I love the networking piece and hate to interrupt it, and I got sidetracked, and so we're running late. But it's a beautiful day, and I'm glad to have everybody here. So let me jump in really quick. I've got a couple sponsors to keep this going. This house that we're here is the old HP campus. Is now rebranded the Vancouver Innovation Center. They're phenomenal. New Blueprint Partners is actually the funding arm that's built this and is kind of rebuilding it. And so you see construction of different zones. There's about 15 companies that are in here now, and they've invited us in, and it's just been amazing. We've got a incubator space, which you can't see today, but it's coming up. It's coming up. It's over in one of the other buildings. So for those of you who don't know me, I see a lot of familiar faces. If you don't know me, my name is Dave Barcos. I've been 25-year design brand creative director and entrepreneur. It's about my 7th startup. This one is my first nonprofit, but it's been an amazing journey. And what I found in that is that people that want to change things, people that want to do things, that are ambitious and want to and have the drive, this is where I want to live, is with people like that want to change and do things. And North Bank was founded in 2017, and it was so that I could keep doing that. I talked to somebody the other day, and I said, I feel like I walked into a sushi restaurant because I just wanted sushi. And the sushi was really bad. And so I said, well, I'll buy the restaurant. And then I found out that the restaurant was bad because the supply chain was wrong. So now I bought a fishing fleet. And now I'm building this entire kind of ecosystem and organization to support what I really want to do, which is work with really great founders. So a little bit about what we do is building this ecosystem is not simple. It is not easy. And it takes a lot of events. It takes a lot of kind of behind the scenes work of connecting with people. But it really is to build this into a thriving ecosystem. We've started working with the city. We help them author a strategic plan that has identified innovation and entrepreneurship, which means they can start to put budget to it. And so this is the start of a really amazing journey that really kind of pulls everybody together. We did it because startup is a journey, and because we all love ChatGPT now, right? The idea that startup is a journey, and you never end up where you think you were going to. And
hold that thought. That's today's topic.
That's today's topic. I love it. And I'm not going to say a lot more about it, but the fact is it takes this community to really help you understand how to navigate that world. Because if you're even first-time founders, second-time founders, you've been down the road a little bit, but it just, keeping your head on a swivel and being able to navigate that really takes this group, right? And so that's our intention. The group has been growing really, really well. We started this startup conversations, and this was catalytic, right? This was about 400 of us in kind of meetup groups in our environment up here. And then I started this group, this meetup again, from a meetup that I had done before. And we've grown to over like 1,300. This has been just amazing to see people want it and need it in Vancouver. Because apart from Vancouver growing and being, just an incredibly vibrant area, it's getting challenging to go. If you have a side hustle or you're trying to connect, if you've got to go into Portland, it just creates huge challenges. And Portland has its own challenges, so it's going to be kind of in recovery for a while. And right now, Vancouver's in growth. And so this is the right time for us to lean into it. I always like finding out who's here. New people that are working on projects and finding out what's going on. So if you want to I put 8 seconds, we're a little behind, it might be 7. But just a quick stand up who you are and what you're building. I would love to find out. Go, Isaac.
I'm Isaac Martin. I'm the CTO of a company called PlantBid. I'm happy to help you. If I can, please ask me. But I need your help. I need a software engineer, senior Python backend engineer, if you know any of them, with tons of experience. We will throw piles of money at them. It's a great role. Please come talk to me if you know somebody like that. Thank you.
Quote that, because you won't hear it in this room that often.
Yeah, right. Lots of need, not a lot of cash.
That's right. That's right. Anybody else got something going that they want to talk about?
Why not? My name's Jeff Henderson, and I'm the patented engineer of the next generation of soft close toilet seat, one that closes itself when I forget. So I'm getting ready to do the contract manufacturing, kind of going through the motions and all that kind of stuff, and about ready to start raising funds.
Very cool.
I got a great manufacturing guy if you're looking for some help.
I'll use some, yeah.
Also, thank you.
Yeah, right. You can solve a lot of problems in my home.
My wife would love it.
Yeah, that's right.
I was saying-
Send me your emails, and I'd definitely seriously.
Beta tester, welcome.
Cool. Okay. Anybody else, real quick? Yeah, Camel.
I'm Kamala Morrison. My background is in product marketing, helping companies launch products. And right now, my startup ideas are in gardening and in career area and a fintech app. And I don't know which one. And I don't know right now how you can help, but just connection is great.
So growing your wealth. Okay.
Yes, a tool to help you do that.
Love it. Cool. So this is one of 4 events that we're doing every month, and there are more to come. One of the things that's been happening is we have been a traveling circus, and so we've been popping up at different places downtown. Better than the way he says it. And that's going to allow us to expand our programming. So right now, we do 2 startup coffees. This is on the first Tuesday and on the second Friday. And we're adding, last Friday, we did an open co-working, so free co-working day from 11 to 3 out in the Commons. And we're going to do that again in October, but we're going to have a little bit of intention. This is a paid event. Some of these things are going to start to jive in here, but it'll be about AI. If you have an AI project that you're working on, we're inviting some AI experts that are coming in, starting to talk about tools that are available, skills and everything else, right? It's sweeping over everybody, and we all need to kind of figure out how to grapple with it. So that'll be second Friday, I think it's the 10th in October. We have another startup conversations. That's on the third Tuesday. We'll do that, and then we do an open happy hour with Van Techie. And if you want more information about the Applied AI Association, I'm not going to go into it now, but it's an organization that we do events for. So we're staying very close to some of the AI leadership that's here in the area. The other thing coming up, this is, it's been a long time coming. This is the incubator that we've talked about, right? This is bringing companies together, early stage companies that need the help and structure. So it'll be a little bit different. We'll have co-working, and then we'll have the incubator. The incubator, as I said, another space that we've got here. If you want information about the launch party, where we're kicking all this stuff off, that's that QR code. Okay, that is the event. It's on September 25th, 4:30 to 8:30. Right now, I think we've got 150, 160 people that are registered. It's phenomenal. I didn't put up here all of the sponsors, but we've got Burnt Bridge, we've got Kyle Lux with Roll Pros, who is actually an alumni of the speaker here, which is amazing. We've got Diggs, which is a local startup. They're sponsoring as well, and we'll have Jeff Holov is the COO. He'll come up and actually talk a little bit. So phenomenal event. We held out in the Commons. It'll be a good party, and you get to see kind of the community that wants to support this. So we're excited about that. The other thing that we're doing, there was a flyer out there about co-working, and this is part of the relationship that we have with the VIC, is they've allowed us to now sell co-working, not just in our space, but out in the Commons area. It's something that they've had, but now they're giving us a discount for North Bank. So at $125 a month, the hours are not directly fixed, but right now it looks like 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. You can come in here, full use of the Commons. There's Wi-Fi in there. Great places to kind of find cubby holes to take calls or work any place out of there. So that's available. That's something that if you have questions, another QR code. I struggled with putting as many QR codes. So if they go to the wrong one, because I placed the wrong one, you'll have to forgive me, but call me and talk about it. This is another thing that I think is exciting is about our programming, and we're going to have a workshop coming up. And we've talked to early stage founders a lot, and it's daunting. And finding out where you are in the journey, I think some of you have seen the continuum that I put up of idea, concept, commit, validate, scale, and right. So this whole stretch of you launching, where do you fit in that? How do you know what you fit? How do you know what to concentrate on? And so this is going to be a workshop that we're running in October, which is going to be very crowded time-wise to get everything packed in there. So we're working through the dates. We will announce that at the launch session. So some of you have seen this. Am I running too fast? I feel like I'm running fast. Okay, good. Some of you have seen this. This is a matrix that we've kind of put together that has those stages alongside of it, has different aspects of the business. This is going to be a little bit of the essence of what the incubator is doing and what we'll talk about in the workshop, right? Helping you navigate where you fit inside of this whole ecosystem and this process, and then help give you really tangible things to execute on inside of where you are and what you need to get done. Setting priorities is one of the hardest things in a startup, and it's going to be our intention to help you guide through it. I always like to talk about new books that I have read, am reading. I'm very, very early into this. Very, very early into this one. But Growth Levers is really, let me back up. He's analyzed a number of different startups, very successful advisor, and worked with over 200 startups, and started to talk about how do you focus? How do you understand where your actual thing is, right? And what actual levers you have to be able to move things. And sometimes it's just language. Sometimes he quotes inside of there Airbnb that needed to gain trust. So it was simply taking professional photos on site, staging things, right? Doing things to build trust. So how do you kind of cut through all the noise of everything that you're circling through and find the real nuts that you need? And that's the critical thing that we need as startups, is that product market fit. And so it's really the goal of honing in on that. So really enjoying it. It's brand new, but I wanted to throw that out there for you guys. That's it. You guys didn't come to hear me talk.
They didn't come here to me either.
Well, they didn't come here. No, but you could have been the headliner. So I apologize. Richard Famdo with Voltaic Marine is building a phenomenal business, and we kind of knew it was tenuous whether he would be doing it. He's actually traveling and not able to make it. But if you've been around at all, you've met C3. And C3 has come to me by a longtime connection, and got a phenomenal background, both inside of Intel Capital. We call him Mr. Wolf. He's, those of you who know the reference, he's the fixer. And as we started talking, really started talking about some of the startup journeys that he's had, and this one that he's done has come up out of it. So I'm going to turn it over to C3. So
And I see people's heads nodding. At the old joke, how do you make a small fortune in wine, whiskey, spirits? You start with a very large one. Hopefully not yours, and even worse, hopefully not someone else's. And I'll tell you why I say that, because the punchline in this whole thing is this entire journey was self-funded by design. And this is from a person who spent years working in inside capital and working with venture capitalists and understanding what happens when you take money. So the genesis of this was Tito's vodka. I was an avid vodka drinker for many, many years. I also spent my formative years in Texas, and I know people that know Tito. He actually worked in Austin, built the company in Austin. Good friend of mine at Dell, their kids played Little League together. So I kind of knew that this wasn't just urban legend, that this was a real thing. He started this company. And when it came out, it was scrappy and new, and he was challenging the status quo, and he kept that brand going, and he kept that value proposition going. What a lot of people didn't realize is that, and his label changed actually, because now it says crafted in an old-fashioned pot still. It used to say handcrafted in old-fashioned stills in Texas. The Texas legend and that frontier, he changed his label largely because people kept calling bullshit, because he actually buys his vodka by the trainload from a company in Illinois. So, but what I loved about this story, when you break it down beyond the let's not confuse marketing with selling, is he had come up with a formula for his business to where he could become a marketing company and market something really special to people. And I like that idea because I have a long history in marketing and startups and starting businesses and business models. And I thought, well, this is great. I can apply. So I went to Oregon State, took a week off from my day job, and this entire thing was a side hustle, which when we get to the critical decision, you'll understand. But there is a distillery startup workshop. It's 4 days down in Corvallis. Fantastic. If you've ever wanted to talk about what it takes to make distilled spirits, I highly recommend this course. The person who teaches it used to be the lead chemist for Heineken Beverages. He's fantastic. It's just a really great environment to go down there. There's some craft distilleries down there. You know, it's just fun. If you got $1,500 in a week, go do it. It's super fun. You're not committed to doing anything. But one of the big questions that I kept asking in this class was beyond the mechanics of how distillation works and how rectification works and how do you add, you know, botanicals to vodka to make gin, was a business plan. Because I really wanted to understand what the business plan looks like. I'm a business plan guy. I probably read thousands of business plans from people, called bullshit on most of them. So I was really trying to, I couldn't get it. I read books on distillery operations. There was a little bit in there on mechanics and costs and whatnot. Every book I could possibly find beyond this, I was just immersing myself, talking to people, really, really hard to nail down like what a business model looks like. And most of the companies in the space, they're privately held. So they're not publishing financials. And if you can get financials, it's for InBev or one of these big companies, and they're such a conglomerate, it's nothing to do with what you're trying to do. But I started the journey. The other thing about distilled spirits that's different from cider, from beer, from wine, from anything else in the category is you can't do it at home legally. You can't set up a still in your garage and start making stuff and see if it works, and have your friends taste it. You can, but if the federal government finds out, there are serious fines, like $50,000 fine for the first offense, plus potential jail time. They're very serious about this. I think it's a post-prohibition thing that the liquor industry just locked it down and didn't want anybody doing this. And so the journey through the TTB, the federal agency that regulates this, is incredibly arduous. The first thing you have to do, if you're going to start a spirits company, is you have to sign a lease. So you have to commit to a lease on a space that is suitable to produce alcoholic beverages, which means fire codes, space, commercial, and then you sign that lease. And most landlords, they don't give you a 3-month lease. So I signed a 3-year lease on a space right in Portland, just over the river, because I was living in Portland at the time, in Northeast Portland, that was an old potato chip factory. And some folks had come in, kind of like this, and they had renovated it into business space. This place is called General Industry. Swift Cider is in there. Gruen CBD products was in there. Happy Mountain Kombucha was in there. And I got the space that used to be where they stored the oil tanks for the potato chip fryers. Fantastic. Thing's a bunker. Concrete walls, concrete ceiling, like this thing was fantastic. Took some renovation, but I got a space. Okay, number one. So now I can actually start filling out my application. I can show them the floor plan, I can show them the specs. Federal market goes, great, fantastic. Now you can start. Now I can actually start buying supplies. So I buy a still, I start thinking about how I'm gonna do this. And mind you, this is 2019. And so I'm still working my day job at Intel, not a small time, not a part-time job. But I'm working on weekends, nights, I'm kind of bringing in supplies, I'm doing these things. And I come to one realization: I'm not going to be able to distill my own liquor or do anything that's going to start with the raw materials. I'm going to need to go immediately to some kind of Tito model where I start sourcing ingredients and I start putting them together in a unique way, right? Looking for how to put that together. And so I get a formula together for a canned vodka soda. So I source vodka from about 5 different sources. I find one that I really like, this beautiful grape-based vodka. Comes in at 190 proof. This stuff is rocket fuel. But it has this really smooth finish. It's not astringent, like it's just beautiful. And I start working on the flavors. I order flavors from 12 different companies. Most of them are garbage, they're horrible. They taste like cough syrup. But I find this one that I really kind of like. And it's a small company in New Jersey, family owned. They own vineyards and farms and plantations in Argentina. And so they grow all their own products and they ship it up to New Jersey and they make these organic flavors, no sugar. Beautiful. And benchtop, I'm working with carbonated water. So I'm cutting the vodka with carbonated water and adding these flavors. And I come up with this stuff that's amazing. Like everybody I give it to try, they're like, whoa, this is really good. And so I submit the formulas. And I get the formulas and there's a couple of questions. It's a very, very technical formula. You have to talk about, proofing. You have to talk about process. You have to talk about what's going in, the source of the components going in, and identify any artificial compounds, preservatives you're putting in there. Luckily for me, I didn't have to put this horrible thing called Valcorin in, which is a preservative that a lot of companies do. Because the vodka proof was so high, I was making these at 10%. It kills anything in the can. I literally did a 12-month shelf analysis. Nothing grows in this stuff. So I found this delicious product that could kill anything. So I submit the formulas. One thing comes back in the formula, and I don't catch it because I've got all this stuff. And they say, yeah, your formula's approved. And when you make the label, it's got to say vodka soda made with vodka. And it sounded redundant, and I didn't even give it a second thought until I started to do the labels. And when I started to do the labels, and you run through that process, then you're going into, I went through 10 rounds of label submissions with the TTB. The first one was a vodka soda. No, it's a vodka soda made with vodka. I said, you're ridiculous. How redundant can you possibly be? Sorry, because there was a lot of people playing around with wine-based spirits, calling them vodka sodas. There was malt beverages, the White Claw-esques. So the TTB was being very literal about it. And they said, this is what you have to put. Okay, fine. So then I had some simple statements like no added sugars. Nope. That's a nutritive statement. You're going to need to put down, you got to put the little nutrition box on the label. And my cans are this big. They're 250 milliliter cans. And I'm like, that box is ugly. I'm not putting that on my label. I said, well, you have to, okay, so take that off. So luckily I had a design firm that had helped me. I won't go into all the gore of the brand development and everything, but we'll talk a little. Long story short, I got through this thing probably about 6 months. From the time that I signed the lease till the time that I had a formula approved, a label design approved, and I can now go start thinking about how I'm going to put this together. And the product that I came up with was called Soda Joy. The concept of this product was very simple from a branding perspective. I developed this product to be an adult beverage that you could order in a bar, have with your friends, but if you don't drink beer and you don't drink wine, but you want an adult beverage that you can drink, these cans, you could fill up a pint glass with ice, pour this in, and it exactly filled the glass. And the bouquet that comes out of that thing was beautiful. It just hit you in the nose. All natural fruit flavors. So I had lime ginger, cucumber mint, strawberry mango, and then I even started with a limoncello, which was my favorite. And so it was really, really, and the premise of the brand was finding joy is universal. Everybody wants to find their joy. How you find your joy and what is joy to you is very individual. And so that was the premise. Like, we don't care what you do, just have fun doing it. And every one of these brand cans had a different poem about finding your joy. Very, so the branding was spot on. I love the branding. So, taking my Tito's model, got my formula in hand, got my product, raw materials, got my labels ready to go, and I go hire a co-packer. So I'm gonna have somebody put this together for me. I'm a marketing company. So I give it to them, we sign a contract, they run a test run, and I'm like, well, I'm not gonna commit to pallets of this stuff until you run some and give it back to me and make sure that it's okay. Right? I mean, born at night, not last night. And so they give me some back, and it is disgusting. It is horrible. It is the worst thing. I don't know how you could have taken the few simple ingredients, vodka, water, and flavor, and bubbles, and combined them in a way that conjured up this demonic liquid that they put into. I'm like, what did you do? And so they told me what they did. And I had been doing it on the bench a certain way, but I hadn't commercialized the process. When I gave it to them, they treated it like every beer and cider that they get, and they put it in the tank and they chilled it down and they stuck it into their atmospheric fillers and sprayed it into the cans. And the nature of how they combined those ingredients and sprayed it into the can meant all the carbon dioxide escaped, all the bubbles left. And this was a highly carbonated beverage. And the flavors melded in a way that just created pure evil. So luckily for me, and I found out later talking to other people in the industry, everyone pretty much has the same experience with co-packers, especially if you're doing something unique. They're like, oh yeah, no, they don't care. They're just running volume. I had one woman, she was making a soda. It wasn't alcohol, but it was close enough that we were trading notes. And she said, I literally got 50,000 cans of garbage that I couldn't sell. And I had to destroy it all. And I'm self-funded, I can't afford that kind of thing. So what do? I do what I always do. Okay, gotta go get smarter. I'm gonna have to figure out what I need to do to make this product. So I'm not getting into market when I thought I was getting into market. And now I gotta figure out how do I put this all together? As I have the end result, I know what I want it to be, but I have to figure that out. So the first thing is I learn about carbonation. Henry's law. The solubility of gas in a liquid is inversely proportional to the temperature of the liquid. It means if you want to keep the bubbles in the water, it better be damn cold. So I got a chiller, I got a carbonator. The other thing was, how do I keep the bubbles from flying out of the can when you fill the can? I had to go find a counter pressure filler. So I bought this really unique product that pressurized the cans before the liquid went in, as opposed to just atmospheric fillers that just sprayed it. So this was after all my research, and this is my notes from the flavor company, which was probably the most fun I had in the entire thing, was sitting in a room for 2 days with a team of lady chemists riffing on flavors, going, I don't know, it's not as strawberry as I like. Could you make it more strawberry? Yeah, we could do that. Fun aside, I sat down the first morning, I flew to New Jersey, had all my notes from the flavors they'd sent me, we were gonna work them out. And they had this table set up, and I looked on the table and I went, where's the ice? I said, what are you talking about? I said, well, we're gonna need ice. We're gonna taste this stuff. It needs to be put on ice. And they literally looked at me, and this is a company that's been around for decades. They said, why would you water it down? I said, well, how do you think people are gonna drink it? They said, no one has ever asked us for ice, ever, in these workshops. I'm like, that's crazy, get some ice. We're doing cold shots this morning. And this is like 10 in the morning, we're drinking vodka shots. But we came out with really, so I understand, I start lining out, okay, I think I know what this thing looks like. This is literally my hand drawing for what the production line's gonna need to be. I was wrong in one respect, in that originally, I had the vodka and the flavor back here, similar to what the co-packer did, and then what I found out was, no, the secret is putting it in at the end. Get the water and the carbonation and everything worked out. And so I actually found a pharmaceutical grade dosing machine that was made for liquid chemical displacement. And I was able to get just the accurate measurement so that I could literally dose every can with the exact amount of vodka and flavor. So I could pre-mix the vodka and the flavor. That didn't do anything wrong. It was the combination with the bubbles and everything. So I literally set this up in my distillery, and I had people with decades of history in the beverage industry look at me when I told them what I was doing, and they're like, nobody does it this way. And I'm like, that's why my product tastes different. And so I literally was able to start producing this stuff by hand in my space. So that's what we did. Started making product. I say we, me and some friends. I got a little sweat equity. Had some people helping me out. I had somebody's daughter working part-time, doing production runs for me and deliveries. And at our height, we were, so now fast forward, 2019 is now turned into 2020. The good part is my day job, I used to travel about 45 weeks a year. That stopped overnight. So I had a whole lot of free time and I was home all the time. The bad part was all that retail and tastings on the weekends in the liquor stores, but everybody got kind of weird. One of the things the government's decided to loosen up was home delivery of hard alcohol. Like, we got to keep people happy and we don't want them going to the store, so drop it off on their doorstep. So I was literally delivering to homes in Arizona, Nevada, because I had people down there that could help, and Oregon. So that helped me get direct to consumers. Had a Shopify store so they could come in and order it, we'd bring it right to them. And then the OLCC, we were in 38 liquor stores in Oregon. People talk about the horrible control state because Oregon controls the distribution of liquor in the state. And a lot of people say it's horrible, free market, you should let distribution reign free. For a small distiller, this was actually critical. Because as a manufacturer, I could get my product listed in the catalog with the state. I could get my product dropped off, that's the loading dock at the OLCC warehouse down in Milwaukee. I could literally drive a carload of booze, send them a bill of lading, tell them what I'm dropping off. They would record it, put it in inventory, and I'm in distribution. And all the liquor stores can pull right out of the catalog. So now I just had to go create some pull. So we just started visiting liquor stores to get them to start pulling this product through. And so things are going pretty good. But operations were a limiting factor. There's only so much you can do by hand. So I'm coming up on this critical juncture of, okay, well, there's only so much I can do with foot pedals, and I've got to now think about growth. I got to think about scale. You think about scale, you think about capital. And so I start talking to people, more readily about going back to this, I need to get the business plan tuned up, right? Garbage in, garbage out. I need to know how we're going to get this money, because I'm going to ask people for money or work a loan or whatever. I'm going to need to show how the return comes out of that. So I start talking to some folks. My friends at Happy Mountain Kombucha upstairs from me, killing it. They had these huge CO2 tanks installed with heat sinks because they were pulling so much gas out of these things. They're running more production than they've ever run in the history, and they were in a growth phase. They started in a garage, they moved into this space, filled this massive space, 5 times bigger than this room. And I go see my buddy, the CEO, and I'm like, dude, you're killing it. He's like, yeah, we're getting into Fred Meyer. We're making more product than we've ever made. And he looks at me and he goes, and I got $5,000 in the bank. He goes, I don't know if I can keep it together. We're not making any money. I'm just making product. I'm like, wow, man, okay. Well, I hope that works out. I go down this, my buddy at Swift Cider, same thing. He'd been scaling, buying new tanks, building a beautiful space. He's like, yeah, I hit a wall. My bank won't give me any more money until I can show a profit. He'd never turned a profit in the history of his business. Same tale I keep hearing from people in the industry, which is why the old joke is true. The beverage industry is a passion project because people want to do it. It's a cash flow business. It doesn't really, it's very difficult to generate real value and wealth. It's for people that want to get in and be cool and hang out and say, I make this and whatever. It's even worse if you're making whiskey, because you make the product, stick it in a barrel, put it in a warehouse for 5 years, and watch it evaporate. Watch your money literally evaporate. So I had to make a critical decision at that point. And being that I work on business models, that I'm the Mr. Wolf and I go in and tell businesses why they're failing, I had to turn inward on myself and I had to really think about this. Because I was coming up on the 3 years on my lease. And if I'm going to continue, I've either got to go all in, quit my day job, take in a lot of money, and be beholden to this business, or I've got to think about why I really got into it in the first place and what I wanted to prove. What I wanted to prove to myself was that I was a real entrepreneur. And I did it in a non-tech space, so I didn't have any conflict with my day job. I didn't have anyone coming back saying, hey, we think you worked on that while you were working on Intel deals. Like, no. But I wanted to develop a product, I wanted to develop a brand, I wanted to get in market, I wanted to deliver to consumers, and I wanted people to tell me it was good. And I had done all of those things. Now the question was, how much more did I need to do? Did I need 1 million people to tell me that? And at the end of the day, I really decided that it needed to stop. It's a really, really, really difficult decision. This is my baby. I made this thing. I still have people come up to me and go, man, I still miss those. I can't believe you got out of that. But then once you step back, now I've gotten from talking to the people that are never making money to watching all the people's businesses fail. And not just little businesses, big businesses. So one of the big, claims to fame in Portland was Eastside Distilling. Big waterfront facility, huge. They're the ones who sold aviation gin to Ryan Reynolds, took in a bunch of money, built this beautiful facility, and spent $1 million just on the fire system. And they couldn't make it work. So, I look fondly on this experience, and I think about it now more academically. Like, I'm glad that I had the experience I did, because so many of my friends would not have been able to make the decision that I made. They would have taken money and they would have been beholden to this, and they would have owed somebody, and the choice would not have been theirs anymore. They would have been beholden to the investors. And this is why I tell people in any space, especially in tech, be careful when you're taking money. Fundraising is not a milestone. Getting your A round closed does not mean you're being successful. It means you're being committed. Getting a product into beta, getting a toilet seat that you're going to go mass produce, that's an accomplishment. Owing somebody $10 million, that's a problem. So, in mine, the development of the beverage, I'm very proud of what I did. The online store was fantastic. My Shopify store was bulletproof. No issues with it. It was awesome. Loved it. Luckily, I have a very good friend with a long history of e-commerce and web design, and built this thing bulletproof for me, and it was fantastic. And that, my total sales in the entire journey of this thing were less than 100 grand. I'm being generous. It's way less than that. But, I was talking to somebody about getting an MBA. This was my official MBA, right? And that people, I tell people, oh, I'm an entrepreneur. I work at Intel, 27 years. They're like, no, you're not. You're a corporate pinhead, and you've had a safety net under you for the whole time. Now, it doesn't matter that I've been fired 12 times at Intel for various things, but this was my proof. Like, I can get out and do something, create something, and then I can actually use my own discipline to put a critical eye on what I'm doing and decide whether it was good getting in and definitely good getting out. 2 happiest days, right? The day you start your business and the day you sell your business. So I sold this to a lovely couple that had aspirations to get into the business and wanted a quick ramp. And so I was very, very happy to recover at least some of my money, exit the business, hand it off to somebody, plant my flag, declare victory, and move on. Take it as a hard-earned lesson. Volume's not profit. Making product was not making money. It was going to take a very long time, if ever. The OLCC I talked about, they actually were fantastic through this whole thing. Other than they wanted a piece of everything that I produced. Everybody wants their cut. I didn't talk about it. Shipping hard alcohol is nearly impossible. The wine industry has done an amazing job with their lobby. You can ship wine to 48 states in the nation. You can't ship hard up. UPS won't take it. FedEx won't take it. The post office won't take it. I had to find a small regional company that was willing to deliver it with lots of waivers and crazy requirements. I view this not as a loss. I view it as a win. And I walk away with it with pride. And I'm really happy that I'm not still telling you about how I'm working on it, but I got 50 grand or 50 million invested, and I don't know if I'm ever getting out. So take it for what it is. If you want to start a business in the beverage industry, I'm happy to tell you all the reasons why that's a horrible idea. But I wish you the best, and I would love to try your product when you make it. Thank you.
It's awesome. Amazing. Let's get, I don't know if we need any reset at all, but yeah, the well of your experience goes deep. This is just one thing, like I found out about it and I was like, you did what? But,
My wife's reaction was a little different. You're doing what?
yeah. Yeah. It's another reason to drink.
Yeah, yeah, right. It's R&D.
Yeah. Who, when SodaStream first came out, decided that they were going to try and carbonate alcohol? I'm the only
No
one.
one? Okay.
I invited my engineer buddy, who owns Sigma Design, over, and he's like, this isn't going to work, and I'm like, of course it will.
It really doesn't work.
We went through, a lot, a lot, and you can't carbonate alcohol that way.
You can't.
No.
I spent a lot of weekends in my space learning as the filler's exploding and it's all coming all over me. I literally walked home and my wife goes, "Oh, you're working on cucumber mint today, huh?"
Yeah. I love it. I want to draw some of the parallel because this is an experience. You've got a wealth of experience inside of tech companies as well. And you mentioned not choosing to take investment, right? That this wasn't an investable business. You knew that up front going in?
No, I didn't know it up front because I hadn't really gotten the validation of was it impossible to scale and make money, right? And I think the guys that turned me off were Swift Cider, or not Swift, the guys in Tacoma. Anyway, there's a cidery in Tacoma. I'm sorry, the name escapes me, but I can look it up. And I'd met them through a friend of a friend. I went up and I was talking to them in their space. And they actually started it. It was a passion project. He started it to work with his son. He wanted to work with his son. And he was actually using the equipment from Schilling Cider Company. And so they didn't even bought their own equipment. So I thought, well, that's the secret, right? If you don't have to actually put out any capital. No, he still wasn't making money. So it was when I talked to him and I'm like, oh, even that's not going to fix it. Okay. Yeah, it was just, it was a good journey and it was interesting that no one could sort of point to this is a horrible idea. Some people would point, but they couldn't show you why. They were just sort of like, it's like every startup, right? They're gonna be like, oh, it's, 100, only one out of 100 makes it, yeah, okay, but I'm gonna be the one. Like, yeah, and I'm not saying it was impossible, but it was really a life choice for me of how hard was it gonna be to get there, and was I willing to take that plunge? And for what I wanted to accomplish personally, I felt like it was sort of a law of declining return. That even if I got it scaling and we were nationwide and we're in store shelves everywhere, I didn't feel like there was any more validation I was going to get out of it. It was just going to be a lot more hard work to produce stuff. And I saw the guys chasing the carrot at the end of the stick, always trying, and I'm like, I'm kind of done. I can walk away clean.
Yeah. Do you think you made the decision that capital wasn't for you and saw that business wasn't doing it? We hear a lot of startups, a lot of tech startups that are going to lean in and they're going to say, I've got this great idea and I just need to get fill in the blank, 1 million, 5 million, whatever, to get it done. Do you think that same thing applies?
I think if you've got a solid business plan, that you know what success starts to look like, and you've got a really solid use of proceeds. So if you know I need $9 million, this is how I'm going to spend the $9 million over this amount of time, and this is what I know it's going to get me with some predictable results, then I think it's a fantastic thing to do. If I had somebody come to me with money and said, look, I'm willing to buy you out, but I want to keep you on as partner, and I want to use your brain and I want to tap it for what you can do, but I'm willing to back the venture, I probably would have stayed in. But signing a term sheet with a pure venture supply, whether it's a VC or worse, I had Cliff telling me to go talk to Ryan and borrow from friends. And I'm like, no, I'm not borrowing from friends. That's even worse. Friends and family, not on this one. I'll give them samples, that's it. But I think, there's lots of business. Toilet seat. I could tell you how to make a toilet seat and how many you need to make to break even and what the MBA is on that seat and whether you can actually make money doing that business. That one, now whether you can get on the store shelves and you can crack Lowe's and Home Depot and Walmart, that's your critical pivot point. But this one was different, largely because there's a mafia of beverage companies that control the shelf space.
Right.
So you either trying to get into 10,000 little liquor stores locally, and now you're beholden to your distributors who really don't care about you because they're selling the big brands, because the big brands are easy. They just take orders. And if you want to get into even, not every state you can even buy hard liquor in grocery stores, right? You can't in Oregon, you can in Washington, but it can't down there. So just getting that army of like, okay, it's one thing if I can make it at scale, then I got to sell it at scale.
Right.
So then I got to have a sales force. Do I really need people in Omaha, Nebraska tapping local liquor stores? Yeah. So now it's really hard to get the return on, even if I made enough product, can I move the product?
It's funny because I think, we always talk about product market fit, right? And I think it's mythical for a lot of people, right? But you just described it exactly,
Yeah.
right? Is you can make the product, it can be the best thing. And if you can't find the way to sell it because of whatever barrier, whether it's cost, price point, whether it's you can't reach the market or whatever, you don't have a business. And we concentrate so hard on the product. I find a lot of people up here are building features.
Right.
Right.
Well, and then also market dynamics, right? So where I was catching the wave in the beginning on COVID and home delivery was really starting to do really well, as we started coming out of COVID and people could leave, they were getting less delivered to their home because they wanted to go out. And I found out that this was a very seasonal product. It did really well in warm months. One of my best stores was out in Astoria, just outside the campground. Because people would pick this stuff up because they're going camping and they're like, oh, this is easy. I don't need bottles and cups, and throw those in the cooler and we're ready to go. But when the colder months started, sales dropped off. People weren't picking this up. And so I've got, my avid home buyers were starting to trail off because they wanted to leave their home and they'll go get their own stuff. And then my seasonal buyers were starting to trail off. So I could even see a trend where I was like, okay, now this is going to be like a 6-month business in the Northwest. So that's why, I started looking at Nevada and Arizona as like, well, they're hot all the time. Like this should be, but even that, like I had a good product market fit from my product in the category, but making sure that everybody knew it was going to be a big, big effort.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned it too, right? You were a marketing company.
Right.
Right. Is that industry is a brand play.
Yep.
Right. And like cosmetics is another
Yep.
very similar
Right.
one. Right. Cosmetics and hair care and things like that.
If I had Kylie Jenner money, I would have been successful. But
well, apparently not, because J-Lo tried her vodka soda, and you mentioned who was the other one?
Jenny McCarthy.
Jenny McCarthy. Okay.
Jenny McCarthy was selling vodka sodas the same time I was. They were awful. They were so
She
bad.
went to the co-package.
Yeah, that was the nice thing is I kept buying all these brands that kept popping up, and I would find online and through Instagram and whatnot, and I'd try them. And I knew mine was better, and they were failing too, so I didn't feel that bad. I'm like, well, okay, I'm better than you. At least I'm.
I want to hit on something that you kind of talked about, right? This was kind of it was personal, right?
It was personal.
We've talked about it, right? It was very different. You just mentioned, and I can just imagine you're tasting this, you built it, and you've got this passion project for what you built. You're tasting it, which is validating that the others suck and you're better, right? But at some point, you've got to take a look at this and say, I can't make it work the way I want. What was that like?
So I remember having coffee with Fresh, Jeremy.
Yeah.
And Jeremy and I were talking. He had to shut down one of his startups. He had hit a wall, and he was not happy about it. And we were having coffee, and I said, if somebody just paid me $1 for the business, if I could just exit, and I got a lot more than $1. But if I could exit the business where somebody came in and saw the value of the business and what I built and the product, then I would feel like I had a successful exit. I feel validated that I didn't just quit, that I transferred it, and then it's on them what they do with it, right? Which they ended up selling it again. So it's too bad. I was really hoping somebody was going to come in and like give it the lift energy that it needed. It was like I said, for me, having worked with hundreds of businesses, literally my day job was going in and doing business transformations and turnarounds and shutdowns. And at the time that I was making this decision, I took a new role working for the chief strategy officer at Intel on special projects for him where that's all I was doing. I was literally started a project working on a silicon photonics turnaround, and the shutdown cost on that business was going to be $500 million just to quit, which thankfully we turned it around and turned it into an asset, and I saved the company billions. But you know, I had already had that discipline, and so it's just really a matter of sort of being a little more dispassionate, being able to step back and looking academically and saying, okay, so if I just bought this business, what would I do? Or if I got handed this business? Luckily for me, the one story that's beaten into your head at Intel when you first start is the story about Andy Grove and Gordon Moore deciding to get out of memory and getting into CPUs. And the line that they teach you is they're having a conversation over the weekend about what to do, and they're at this critical point in Intel's business early on. And they said, all right, if we got fired and the board brought in 2 new people to make this decision, what would they do? And that was their lesson in becoming dispassionate and looking at it really, you know, objectively. And so I'd learned that, and that's, you know, that was a skill that I had developed to help people who are working in businesses, because I found the same thing all the time. People are committed to businesses because it's personal. If you're not, it's a job. But whether you're a founder or you're a GM leading hundreds of people, or you're just somebody with 6 people doing an internal startup, what's fueling you is that desire to be successful, that passion, that you can see a future that looks bright. And helping people sometimes realize the narrowness of that possibility and all of the other eventualities are going to happen, and making a decision of, is that really the best use of your resources? You know, for my case in the corporate world, it was, if I don't have 300 people working on this, what could I have those 300 people? What's the opportunity cost? For me personally, this was like, what am I going to do personally if I don't do this? And it really came down to a value decision of like, am I going to get enough value back for me personally to keep doing that, or can I divert myself to other endeavors, like working with you, Dave?
Yeah, like,
and
I think it's part of the reason. I appreciate that. It's one of the reasons I think we get along really well. You understand it's a personal deal. You know, we talk a lot about calling the baby ugly.
Yeah.
Right, and it is. It's like finding you know, what is the nut of a startup that really exists and has potential, and encouraging that, even though there's a lot that you may need to get through.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that.
One
But
in the
yeah, I
back.
want to start up for Q&A.
First was the cider company.
Let's go with one. We're short on time.
Was it Incline Cider? Was that what we talking about in Tacoma, the cider company? It is,
Yeah.
2 things you can never do on stage is 1, remember things, and 2,
Yeah.
second is math.
I'll remember when I'm walking to the parking lot, and I'll be like, oh!
the question is, how did you write your contracts? Did you get a lawyer or something like? 'Cause you
I did have a lawyer. In fact, my lawyer was Cliff DeGroot, who's an advisor to North Bank. And when I went to Dave's little soiree back in April, when he was pulling some people together, I'm walking in, and there's Cliff. And Cliff literally looked at me and goes, you got booze in the back of that car? And I'm like, no, man, we're not doing that anymore.
There you go.
So you're starting off like.
Al,
Incline cider. Yeah.
nice.
That's right. It
You're
is.
starting off with your small company. Is your small company, do you recommend going to a lawyer right away?
Yes.
Even though for the smallest contract?
Well, okay, so for me, it was critical that I go to a lawyer because I had 3 things going on. 1, you get the federal government, so you better make sure you're pretty legal. 2, I needed another set of eyes to make sure that I wasn't just glossing over things, which I would do when you're doing 100,000 things. So it's good to have sort of the voice of reason, a little adult supervision. And the 3rd was I promised people working with me on the sweat equity that I would give them a piece of the business. And so I structured it as a C Corp and not an LLC so that I could physically give them, you know, a share. And so all of those things required, and plus all the branding and trademark. So this is trademarked, you know, the tagline, all the branding was protected, which helped me in the value in the sale because I literally had assets that I could sell, not just a lease and some used equipment.
Al.
You sold $100,000. That's about like 1 million cans. So
It was significantly less than that. Like I said, I seriously rounded up to make it look a little better.
Very entrepreneurial.
But I went through, you know, the cans come in 7-foot high pallets, stacked up, and they're little, you know, 250 ml cans. I think I probably went through 4 or 5 pallets of those things. That was probably the one thing from a supply standpoint. I had plenty of labels, I had plenty of boxes, I had plenty of vodka. I bought a 280-gallon tote of this vodka. I literally had this it was fantastic. It was so amazing. But yeah, the cans were, and that was a difficult thing, is that the commodity pricing during COVID, because all of the breweries and everybody was pivoting to cans, aluminum got scarce and it got not cheap. And so, yeah.
So my son's favorite joke is 99% of gamblers quit before they win the lottery.
Right?
What happened after you sold? What did the new owners do?
The new owners tried a few different things, and then I think they just finally threw in the towel. They actually, it was sad for them. I really liked the couple. They had bought like 3 coffee shops that they were in the process of turning around. And we've heard a couple of months ago how difficult coffee businesses are. And they also were he was working in the industry and wanted to stop working for somebody and work for himself. And so he had this concept of developing the business, making the liquor, and then pivoting the coffee shops to tasting rooms in the afternoon and evening. Really good business plan, but they were new entrepreneurs with 2 kids, and they had way more. I think they bit off way more than they could chew, but you know, I gave them a lot of credit for trying. So,
Sorry,
yeah.
You don't think that was worth salvaging?
No, I had made the decision, and I don't second guess the decision. So,
Yeah.
Would I have wished that somebody had proved me wrong? Absolutely. I wish that they were nationwide, and I wish they were selling this stuff, and I was getting it on airplanes, you know, when I was flying across the country. That would have been awesome to see.
It's a very strong.
I was going to ask if any.
If you quit, you gotta quit.
Yeah, I think you have to quit when you are resolute that you're not going to have regrets. So I would not have wanted to quit before I got into market. When I realized the co-packing didn't work, I would not have wanted to quit before I got on shelves and before I was delivering product to people. Right? I wouldn't want to quit with a warehouse full of stuff that I was just afraid to sell. But once I had sold it and gotten to that point that I was at, that it was like, I'm at the base camp. Now I got to figure out if I'm going to climb Everest and if I've got the oxygen for it, or if I'm just going to declare victory that I've seen the mountain and I can go home. I saw the mountain. I don't need to see the summit.
You made it to Nepal.
Yeah. Right.
Jeff.
I was kind of curious about your online marketing strategy, not, Oregon hours, you can knock on doors and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Sell products. So you're happy with your website, but you got to get it out there. So how did that go? And like maybe for perspective, what was it? How much traction did you end up getting doing that?
So we got a lot early on. So I hired a PR company to help. We had a multi-pronged strategy. One, we got on local media. I was on all 3 of the local channels, or 3 out of 4, just talking about the product. They were loving new startup, They also had a lot of connections to influencers. So we were tapping a lot of influencers that were trying the product, posting on Instagram. Had a targeted demographic marketing campaign through Facebook and Instagram. So we knew who generally was going to be in the range of our consumer. We knew that the zip codes. We did some on-sites down in Lake Oswego and some other places up in Hillsborough. So we were trying a lot of things that we're generally having decent success. And then when we saw that seasonal tail off, that's when I started to go, well, I think I'm pushing a rock up a hill at this point. I think let's take a step back and think about what we need to do.
The local media gave you kind of more of a local presence.
Oh yeah.
But beyond local, like other states.
No, we didn't branch out to other states because distribution. So the other thing I didn't talk a lot about, I could spend an hour on any one of these slides. One of the barriers for liquor is not just shipping, because that's, assuming you get direct to consumer, that's in and of itself a relationship you have to set up individually with each state. But to get into national distribution, you've got to get into a distributor like a Southern Glaze or one of these big, which in and of itself, they're their own mafias. They've got some antitrust suits against them on how they've been disenfranchising smaller vendors in lieu of bigger vendors. And they would, number one, you had to show that I could already make enough product to satisfy their demand, but there was no guarantee that they were going to sell the product through. So they're like, okay, I need 250,000 cases for us to consider you a major supplier, and then we'll talk about whether we can actually move any of that product for you. That's a whole lot of
And
investment.
a lot of those guys will have
hope.
buyback rules
Yeah.
as well. So yeah, guys, we are really tight on time. So I think it's 11:30. I gave up my clock. But C3, it was awesome.
Thank you, sir.
Really, it's amazing to work with you.